One of the key themes that is a primary backdrop for most of the Old Testament and even the New Testament is the idea of God's law. In Scripture, we see that God gave many laws or rules for humanity to live by, and these laws would serve as the framework of the believer's relationship with God. The first rule that is given by God is in Genesis chapter 2, in which God tells Adam and Eve that they can eat of the fruit of any tree with the exception of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Then in Exodus, God provides the Ten Commandments for the newly formed nation of Israel. This set of Ten Commandments is built upon throughout Exodus and Deuteronomy, along with the laws surrounding Jewish worship that are mentioned in Leviticus. But by the end of Deuteronomy, God's law contains over 600 rules governing the life of the believer. Today, we may look at these laws of the Old Testament as a bit of a burden. However, as we read through the Psalms, the law was actually a delight to the believer. In Psalm 119, the author notes that the law is something that guards a person from evil and provides direction for life. The psalmist repeatedly declares his love for the law and treasures it even. Now, in addition to the actual written law communicated by God to humanity, we see in Scripture that God's rules and guidelines are also written internally on our hearts. In Romans 2, Paul notes that God's law is written on the hearts of everyone. And as a result, even if a person doesn't have access to the laws written in Scripture, they generally know how to act in society. Most people internally know not to steal or to murder somebody. So, what was the purpose of the law? Theologian John Frame in his Systematic Theology provides three really good summary statements of God's purpose in establishing the law. First, he notes that the law was used to restrain evil in society. For example, prohibitions to murder or to steal help to create some safety within our communities. Second, the law is designed to provide guidance on how the believer in God should live their life. In the Old Testament, God provided the nation of Israel with all of these commands in order to guide them in how to live their lives. If they were obedient, they would experience blessing. If they disobeyed, they'd experience the consequences for their actions. And then a final purpose of the law is explained by the Apostle Paul more fully in Galatians chapter 3. In this passage, Paul notes that the law is a type of disciplinarian or guardian for the life of the believer. This is built upon the idea of a type of person in the first century culture that was trained to help train up a child and raise that child to adulthood. This person could often be kind of harsh and severe, but their discipline would ultimately help raise the child. Paul notes that the law is like this type of instructor. The law is designed to essentially lead us to Christ. It does so not by helping us to sin less and less, but instead of pointing out our flaws and our sinfulness. This helps us to see our desperate need for grace and for mercy, and we realize that we cannot do anything to save ourselves. Therefore, the law helps us to place our hope and faith fully in what Jesus provides for us through His death and resurrection.